Surveillance video shows the suspects approach the vehicle and then start smashing all the windows.
What's going on, everybody? Rob Ferretti here with another reminder as to how you have to compare apples to apples when you're pricing out renting a car through a car rental agency or maybe scooping something up on Turo. I get stuff all the time. I've got one customer in particular who reaches out and he's like, well, I could just get it off of Turo, and yeah, it's a little less convenient, but it's a little less expensive, and you can't compare the two. And here's why. There's a guy in California who just found out the shortcoming of Turo by renting a car on Turo. And when you're renting a car on Turo, you're really just borrowing a car, and we'll get to that in a second. But you're renting the car through Turo thinking it's going to be treated as a rental car and you are afforded the same protections, just a little less convenient, when it's not. And in this instance, the guy had the car parked outside. Some vandals came, smashed in all the windows on the car, and it turns out his credit card doesn't offer protection because it's not a rental car, and his insurance doesn't cover it because it's not a rental car. So now he's left up to whatever option he chose with Turo, which is the incredibly overpriced $70 a day insurance, or whatever the minimum policy was, which didn't cover anything. And this guy's left holding the bag. Now they're coming after him for $35,000 for some smashed windows on a car that he did nothing wrong. He got the car, it was parked outside, and next thing you know, bam, 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 the guy is now looking at $35,000 for a rental of some crap Mercedes.
The driver, who only wants to be identified as TQ, says that's when his problems began. Since Turo isn't a rental car company, he says neither his car insurance nor his credit card would cover the damage.
I was initially attracted to Turo by its competitive rates, but I feel the rates are deceptive because it does not factor in insurance.
Now, if you think about it, my take on this is probably 100% insurance fraud from the owner of the vehicle, right? Because when you rent out your car or you lend out your car, you probably have a tracking device in it. If you have a tracking device in it, you know exactly where it is. You know, things aren't doing so well, money's not so tight. Well, let's squeeze the insurance company of this customer or Turo, whatever the option is, by smashing in the windows and then sending over an estimate for 30 grand. Now, I can't even imagine this car's worth more than 30 grand. And if you look what the vandals did, there's places all over. They came for this specific car to smash in these specific windows, and they didn't beat up all the body panels. They went right after the glass, right? They hit the glass windows, the tail lights or the headlights. Anything that was not body damage was done to this car. So it's very suspect to begin with that somebody can effectively rent you a car, have somebody go out and steal it, set it on fire, do whatever they want, smash it up, and then put an insurance claim in to get paid on it. And that could be their exit strategy on the car. So this reeks of insurance fraud, but the guy who is looking at the $35,000 bill has to then prove it. So without catching these guys, there's no proof. And honestly, let's be honest here. Are the cops really going to turn this into their number one priority? If it was a quadruple homicide, sure, maybe they'd attribute some resources to it. But it's just like, you guys sort it out. And it's a couple of broken glass windows. Nobody was injured. Nobody was killed. So when you look at it from that perspective, the cops aren't really going to put their best guy on it and try to start tracing phones and pinging cell phone towers to find out who these guys were that smashed the windows. So this highlights a very specific issue that you're going to deal with Turo, is that you are not getting a rental car. So you're not getting the services of a rental car company, which is what I always argue. Like, you've got a guy renting out his personal car. Might not be maintained properly, might be have open warranty or open recall notices on it, and there's no regulation. You can't do that as a rental company. You got to get the recalls taken care of. You have to have the services taken care of. You got to present a good car. You get there on Turo, and it's happened to me because I've gotten cars on Turo before. You go, and the photos of the car were taken when they got the car, not the current condition of the car. So you go, and you're expecting this car, and the thing is beat to crap. It smells like weed. There's 50 things wrong with it, and you're like stuck. Because now you can't just be like, all right, what else do you have? If you're at the airport and you get a car and they give you something that's gross, you're like, all right, give me something else. Here, you just went to some dude's house. So now you're showing up at some guy's house and you're like, crap, now I came over here, a $40 Uber and whatnot, let me just take the car. So the main differences you're looking at here, and this isn't even like an insurance fraud against the guy. This is almost like a a civil matter at this point in time, because you have a peer-to-peer agreement. It's not really a rental. And that's the biggest problem you're going to run into with Turo, is that you are not covered by the rental car laws and the rental car protections that exist that rental car companies are supposed to be abiding by. So here, you're just effectively borrowing somebody's car, and somebody's exchanging money to make sure the transaction goes. The reason it works is because Turo sells the insurance. So Turo shouldn't sell the insurance as an optional. It should be mandatory. And even then, that would then be, because the insurance from them, I think, is backed by Travelers or something, that would then be insurance fraud on somebody's behalf, damaging the car. But if Turo's making so much money selling insurance to everyone, they're probably not going to waste their time chasing that down and be like, oh, if they got one customer or one guy who's putting cars on the platform who always has mystery vandalism on his car, they may see some commonality there and then say, this guy's a problem, he's committing insurance fraud, and open an investigation. But these one and done things, it's really hard to catch somebody and prove without having the guys doing the vandalism arrested. It's hard to prove that that was actually fraud. So what do? Rent from a normal rental company when at all possible, right? I get it. I rent from Turo from time to time. If there's a situation where I can get a good car cheaper and I just take the insurance from them, so I limit my liability to $3,000, I accept that I have $3,000 in liability. And this guy goes on the news and he's like, oh yeah, it was unclear. It's perfectly clear. Turo, when you select, I'm like, oh, I'll just rely on my own insurance. When you select no insurance, they say, by the way, you're not really renting a car. There's no insurance. You're 100% responsible if anything happens. I'm like, cool, minimum protection. And I take that $3,000 risk, which is always, in my opinion, the best option. Because if I'm running into something where something happens, max out of pocket's going to be $3,000, so be it. Rob Ferretti, thank you for watching. It sucks for this dude. If I were you, TQ or whatever you're going by, because he doesn't want to give out his name, I would probably just say, screw you, cancel my account, I'm not paying it, and leave it at that. Because then it becomes a civil matter and it's very expensive to sue somebody over something like that. And Turo's not going to sue you. It would probably be the Turo host that tries to sue you. All they would do is cancel your account. So the guy who smashed his own windows, theoretically, would be fixing his own windows, which probably isn't very expensive. As I said, a window, a windshield, a rear window for a Mercedes, if there's $5,000 or $6,000 in damage, it's probably more like it. $30,000 is egregious, and you can't even, it's not even like the rental car companies that can't overcharge you for stuff. These guys can charge you whatever they want. It's probably in Turo's terms of service that they're going to approve what the repair cost is, and you just have to abide by that and pay it. So, what have we learned? Go to Turo if you want, because there's some options on there that generally could make sense, but there's a lot more risk that you're assuming when you do so. Thanks for watching. See you next time.